Good evening, members, officers, staff, guests and all, and welcome to this, the final meeting of East Northamptonshire Council.
Good evening, Madam Chairman.
Good evening, members, officers, staff, guests and all. Welcome to this, the final meeting of East Northamptonshire Council. After 47 years and nearly 300 meetings of this full council, it is with mixed emotions that I chair this, our final meeting. I am delighted to be in our council chamber to conduct this last meeting, although the room seems very empty without you all here in person. It is good to have you here, even if it is only virtually. We must remember and celebrate all the amazing achievements of this council, and I hope we will be hearing some of your memories and stories later in the proceedings. So without delay, I will open the meeting.
Lovely.
Item 1, receive apologies for absence for the meeting.
No apologies received, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 2, to approve the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 25th of January 2021, and they are pages 238 to 244 as attached in your minute book. Just to let you all know, I have no live feed. I cannot see anybody's hand or picture or anything. So if you wish to participate, could you please raise your hand in the participants section? Thank you. So I'm going to call for a proposer.
I'm happy to propose, Chairman.
I'm happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Next item 3, receive any declarations of interest. Could you please use your either chat function or raise your hand in the participants? Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Thank you. Item 4, to receive official announcements, notices or reports. And the first one you will hear tonight is from myself as chairman. This is the last chairman's report from me and us here at ENC. Over the past year, this report has been very short due to the pandemic restrictions. However, I've been very busy this past month. I launched my Chairman's Champions Awards last year to recognise the local heroes across our district and the excellent work they do in local communities, which often goes unrecognised. And I was delighted with the response. The closing date was the 31st of December 2020, and there were a number of categories, including young person, helping in the community, good neighbour, volunteer, volunteer group, community organiser and business or organisation. And the winners were Cafe at 25 in Earthling Borough and the Woodpecker in Raunds for the business or organisation category. Rob Giddings, Anne Gilbert, Linda Gretto, Mike Herring, Camilla Sherwin and Charles Tomalin for the community organiser category. Colin Godfrey for the Good Neighbour category. Catherine Brightwell, Taro Crick, Richard Lattimore, Florence Musvaba, Cheryl Tompkins, Joanne Visson and John Wooding for the Helping in the Community category. First Raunds Scouts Group, East Northants First Responders, Raunds and Saxton Area Volunteers, and support at Titchmarsh in the volunteer group category. Damien Stiles and Katie Sorrell in the individual volunteer category, and finally Lily and Maisie Howe in the young persons category. I have had Zoom calls with most of the winners, and I was so pleased to meet them and congratulate their dedication and commitment to their communities. Most of these winners were so pleased to receive a recognition and were genuinely surprised to have been nominated. So congratulations again to all who received an award. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a Zoom presentation to recognise the long service of some of our staff. We had a really lovely virtual meeting where I named and congratulated the staff. The awards range from 5 years service to 30 years service. We recalled what had happened in the years, not only at ENC, but around the world. It is quite memory provoking thinking back to things like, so 5 years ago, we awarded Freedom Leisure the contract to manage and develop the healthy and active lifestyles. And Britain held a referendum on the United Kingdom's membership of the European Union even, and we voted to leave. 10 years ago, a section of the new Greenway opened from Queensway and Higham Ferris to John Clark Way in Boston. And Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and Catherine Middleton married at Westminster Abbey. 15 years ago, Stannick Lake opened to visitors. David Oliver joined the council, and a whale was discovered swimming in the River Thames in London. 20 years ago, the public voted for committee system at ENC, and you'll be interested to know that 1 million children in over 3,000 schools participated in an experiment to discover if it is possible to create earthquakes by all jumping off their chairs at the same time. You'll be pleased to know it wasn't. 25 years ago, public speaking time was introduced at ENC, and ENC dropped district from its title. And also, the Spice Girls' debut single, Wannabe, was released. And finally, 30 years ago, the council took full management of Pemberton Centre rather than sharing with the Rushton Boys Comprehensive Centre. The final breakthrough in the Channel Tunnel was achieved, and 600 new crop circles appeared, putting Britain under the world media spotlight. I hope that brought back a few memories for you all, as it seems as it says a lot about this council that we have staff who have worked here for 30 years. It's clearly somewhere that people enjoy working, and I have always had a sense that staff feel settled and content in their role and in the ENC team. So thanks again to all of you. Last week I buried a time capsule with David Oliver at the front of the building. The contents of the time capsule will show future generations all the good that this council has achieved and the positive impact it has had on the lives of the people of East Northants. The capsule is also a dedication to everyone who has worked for or with the council to improve the district. We've included a history book, letters from myself and the leader of the council, photos of the many projects and events the council has led on, and a council tax bill and local newspaper, Northants Telegraph, amongst many more items. We wanted to capture this moment and to show who we are and what we have achieved, so that in 50, 100, 200 years' time, whoever finds this capsule will learn about us all and how we got to this point in history. I have had the pleasure of showing the new Chief Executive of the North Northants Council, Rob Bridge, and the Shadow Leader, Councillor Jason Smithers, around this fantastic facility last Friday. I invited them to come along and look at the amazing transformation that has taken place to these premises. The transformation team of Lewis Gabb and Kerry Watson gave a guided tour, and both Rob and Jason were very impressed with the way the building has been improved and updated. All of this will benefit the working environment moving forward. This is a fabulous facility, and now they know what is here. Members and staff will have received a wonderful booklet, A Brief History of ENC recently. This was put together by our former Deputy Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer, Sian Matthews. I have had the pleasure of listening to Sian give one of her history talks at the WI, and if you ever get the chance to hear her, it is totally fascinating. Sian has done a wonderful job with our comms team to produce this booklet as a commemorative reminder of the history of ENC. I am sure you have read it and enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you, Sian, for your contribution not only to this booklet, but for your years of service you have given. I am pleased to hear that you received the flowers that we sent you as a little thank you. Members, you will also be receiving very soon a commemorative badge as a mark of your dedication and commitment to this council. So look out for that in the post. Unfortunately, we were unable to get them before this meeting, but thanks goes out to all of you. As you know, when you're chairman, you choose a charity, and this year, and in that year, you raise funds for your charity. This past year has been very different. I've not been able to hold any functions or events to enable me to raise funds for my chosen charity. However, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Tom Hatton, who is the representative from my charity, East Northants First Responders, and he is going to give a brief talk about what they do in our district. So over to you, Tom.
Good evening, councillors. Thanks for having me. I won't keep you too long. So my name's Tom. I'm the coordinator of East Northants First Responders. We're a voluntary organisation responding to 999 calls in the community on behalf of the NHS. I did send a PowerPoint across. If that could just be put on for the councillors, please. And what we'll do, just so you can have a bit of a visual as I'm talking and you don't fall asleep, we'll talk you through that slideshow, if that's okay. Have we got that slideshow?
Bear with us one moment, Tom. We're just waiting for Ben to put it up on the screen for us. Thank you.
No problem. There we go. So, like I said, so I'm a coordinator for this scheme, and we've been very lucky to have Helen sort of choosing us as Charity of the Year. So we work in partnership with East Midlands Ambulance Service, and like I said, predominantly we do respond to 999 calls in the community. We are volunteers, so we do this in our free time. So myself, my day job is a sports centre manager within a school in Warnes. And everyone else within the scheme, that their jobs vary. If we can just go to the next slide, please, in typical Chris Whitty fashion. So being a charitable organisation, we do rely on funds, grants for members of the community, sort of public donations, business grants, and of course sort of council funding as well, with empowerment funds, etc. All this money, we're not for profit, we don't receive a penny, no expenses, nothing, we're completely voluntary. So any money we are lucky to receive gets reinvested straight into our life-saving equipment that we carry, so our defibs, oxygen, first aid kits, etc. And pre-COVID, and I'm sure we'll do this once again when restrictions eventually ease, we deliver free CPR training in the community, so to empower individuals to make that split-second choice to potentially save someone's life. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we go through numerous different calls. 10 years ago, CFRs, Community First Responders, were simply there for cardiac arrest. So that is when someone's not breathing and they require CPR. Fast forward to 2020, 2021. In short, there's not a lot we don't go to. And on the right hand side of that slide there, you'll see the vast range of the types of jobs that we go to. So as you can see, it's expanded more than you could probably imagine in 10 years. As a result, we do carry a lot more equipment, which again requires a lot more funding. In obviously 2020 COVID, even though it's not sort of there, we do respond to COVID patients as well, and obviously wearing the appropriate PPE to go alongside that. If you can go to the next slide, please. So to give a better visual of sort of the added pressures over the last few years, so obviously the years are stated on the left, and in the middle is the total amount of hours that our volunteers have given to the community whilst logging on. And when I say logging on, that is when we wear uniform and we call the Emergency Operations Centre, and we're basically put on standby to attend any call that comes through at that time. They won't send us unless there's an ambulance in its way, so our sole purpose is to get there to provide immediate care within a matter of minutes whilst the ambulance is en route. So 9 to 10 you will have an ambulance within sort of the allocated times, but for more sort of rural areas will be on scene within minutes, whilst the ambulance could take 10, 15, 20 minutes at that. So it's the immediate care that we provide in the community. We have also got the ability to make those decisions and discharge patients on the scene, which again just alleviates that pressure for, as we know, the already stretched NHS. So as you can see, for 2019 to 2020, the amount of hours tripled, give or take. So that just shows the amount of added pressure that COVID-19 added. Obviously, with COVID-19 hitting the UK, there's a lot of unknowns. So there was actually a period of time where we did not get sent to many patients because they didn't know how safe it was. Bear in mind, we are volunteers. But with that said, I think the amount of patients we still attended and the hours shows that obviously it's a very busy year for us as a scheme. And obviously, with 2 months of 2021, as stated, we've almost matched. I mean, we're end of March now, so we've probably already met what the total hours were for 2 years ago, and we're probably not far off the amount of patients we've seen to as well. So those previous slides give sort of an indication of our predominant, sort of what we predominantly do as first responders. And the next few slides will go into a bit more detail for what else we deliver in the community. Next slide, please. So as we all know, the NHS has been hugely successful. I don't think anyone can argue that with the vaccine rollout. I'm very proud that we were part of the initial rollout of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine at Northampton General back in, time flies by, I believe it was December. Northampton was the first county to have first responders volunteer to administer this vaccine. And I'm very proud that myself and my fellow colleagues within the scheme and other schemes were able to assist and get these vaccines into patients. Since then, obviously the vaccine programme has increased. More vaccines have become available with the AstraZeneca. And we've had responders volunteer across all the mass vaccination sites and local doctor surgeries that currently administer the vaccine. And we collectively, obviously, as you all know by the media, collectively vaccinate thousands of patients. I'm very proud to be a part of that. We can go to the next slide, please. CPR training. I talk very fast. I do apologise. So pre and post COVID, so to speak, we do deliver CPR training. It's a good way of us sort of building awareness of ourselves and increasing recruitment. But ultimately, it does also teach members of the public how to save a life. Anyone can save life, including anyone in this meeting now, just by knowing the basic CPR for resuscitation. So we do enjoy, and we are very proactive in delivering free CPR training in the community. And we obviously look forward to doing that once more, hopefully sort of going from June onwards. We can go to the next slide, please. As a charity, as I briefly sort of touched upon earlier, we do fully fund ourselves. So 9 out of 10, we use our own cars to respond to patients. All fuel, wear and tear, the whole lot is actually funded by the individual. So the items listed on the screen is what's funded by the scheme. So fuel, etc., is actually covered by the individual, not the scheme. The physical equipment, the uniform, as such, worn, the training equipment that we deliver to members of the public, and all the associated fundraising costs, it's all funded by members of the public, businesses, and councils. If we can go to the next slide, please. An extra role that we do as volunteers. There's not a lot we don't do, in short, but to summarise this little PowerPoint for you, our last sort of main role that we do as well in the community is install and maintain community access AEDs. These are the nice bright yellow boxes you'll see around the street, and they increase your chance of survival from cardiac arrest tenfold. So having these on the street is literally saving lives, so the more the better. So we're very proactive, very keen to increase the amount of AEDs we have on the street. And as such, our scheme launched Operation Shock. And that was simply a project to get funding behind to try and increase the amount of defibs on the streets across East Northants. And on the left, so this has been running about 8-9 months. So as you can see listed, that's what we've achieved out of Operation Shock at the moment. So we've installed one AED on the street, that's good to go, so that's all linked to 999. So any member of the public will be diverted to that should they unfortunately need it. We've got one which is ready to go up, we're just waiting for a date to be set. There was one AED in the box which was about to, basically as a malfunctioned AED. Obviously, as responders, we definitely didn't want a box taken out of action, so we loaned a scheme AED free of charge to keep that box operational in that quiet town of Denford. And finally, we have one AED and a box waiting to find an appropriate area to install it. So that's the end of this slideshow. I hope it's been a bit of an insight of what we do. Anyone could be a first responder. So East Midlands Ambulance Service will train you, and then you jump straight into the road, so to speak, with one of ourselves as a bit of a mentor. But ultimately, all of this cannot be done without funding. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your support and the funding that has been gratefully received over the last few weeks. Because of that, all of that can be achieved and can continue to be achieved. So thank you. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you, Tom, for that insight into what you and your team do in and around our district.
Well done.
I'm always amazed by the dedication and commitment by you all. As a former first responder, I know only too well how much it takes to be that responder, and I am delighted and honoured to have been asked to become a trustee for your group. Although I was unable to hold any events, I've been greatly supported by my fellow councillors, and we've provided funds from our empowerment allowance to be put towards this amazing charity. And I am absolutely over the moon to be able to confirm that the funds raised by us all is £13,803. Brings a tear to my eye, sorry. I'm truly honoured to be able to thank all of my fellow councillors who have helped me to support you and your colleagues. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Greatly deserved. You do an amazing job. And as you said, it's fully voluntary. You don't even get your petrol paid for. This is your time. And I know you've got 2 young boys and you still dedicate your time, and all of the other crew have got families as well. So well done, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Here, 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 here.
For what you do. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Here, 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 here.
Sorry, I'm joking up a bit. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
So, as I move on, before I finish, I'd like to say a big thank you to the comms team who have kept me up to date with my reports. And I'd also like to show Louise Tyers my appreciation for the support that she has given me this year. I'm going again. I could not have done it without her. And I have bought a bouquet of flowers that I want to present to her as a sign of my appreciation. Thank you, Louise. Ben, I wonder if you could put Louise on the screen so everyone can see the flowers. We have socially distanced in doing this. So.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
You are absolutely welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, I need a tissue, but I will now move on to our Chief Executive. Thank you very much for his announcements.
Thank you, Chair. So follow that. I don't normally have announcements, as those of you who attend council meetings will know, but I have just a brief one to make tonight, which is that obviously this is the last council meeting. I did get a mention in passing there from the chairman as I celebrated my 15-year anniversary last month, so not been around for as long as many people have, but 15 years is a fairly long time. Worked with many councillors during that time, obviously all of you, 16 chairmen all told. Only 2 leaders though, Andy Mercer in the first instance, and of course Stephen North, the current leader, for probably the vast majority of my 15 years. So I think a special thank you to him from me for being a very, very good guy to work with, and I think we've achieved a lot under his leadership, and I'm sure he's going to be talking about some of that later on, so I won't steal his thunder. I'll be retiring at the end of March, so I won't be involved in North Northamptonshire Council going forward. So I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be Chief Exec here for the last 15 years. And any of you who's having anything to do with North Northamptonshire Council in the future, I wish you all the best. And that's it from me. Thank you, Chair.
We all need it.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, everybody, for your support for obviously for David and myself. And so now we move on to item number 5, to receive an announcement or report from the leader of our council. Over to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. I knew this journey would end for me as leader of this council at some point, but of course I never expected it to be in these circumstances, given my last 3 deaths remotely, and with the council coming to an end after 47 years as well. I have been leader the longest serving in the county for 10 years, and I have worked out by next Wednesday, and hopefully this is not a bad omen, but I will have been leader for 3,832 consecutive days. So I have certainly done a few leaders' addresses in my time, over 40, but I'm afraid I've still got quite a bit to say in a wrap up. So this council has delivered a huge amount in the last 47 years, and of course these circumstances are not of our making. But there is an item on the end of the agenda where I'm sure there will be many comments from you all. So I'm just going to highlight some of the achievements during my tenure. So I will start with Rushton Lakes. In 2012, we gave permission for a retail and leisure offer on the old Skewbridge site in Rushton, which became, of course, Rushton Lakes, which opened after a public inquiry in 2017. We said we needed more local jobs, and we needed to be good to grow the local economy as well, rather than everybody going elsewhere in the county. And I'm safe to say we absolutely delivered on that one, first class. And of course, it's not just a fantastic retail offer, but of course the leisure and restaurant offer as well, which makes it quite unique in retail centres. I would like to thank everybody involved, especially the Planning Management Committee, our local MPs, Peter Bone and Tom Perscliffe, LXB, for what is arguably, in my view, our greatest achievement as a council. Moving on to Community Facilities Fund and Members Empowerment Fund. As leader, I said we should use new home bonus as intended and support areas that are taking growth. And over time, with clever and careful management, we have used half the money from New Homes Bonus, from Members Empowerment Fund and the Community Facilities Fund, supporting many local projects. With CFF, we have invested nearly £3 million, either by match funding or supporting projects in its entirety. There have been 8 rounds all told, and we have supported villages and towns up and down the district, from play areas to village hall improvements, from town parish councils to community groups. As leader, I have been lucky enough to visit with all the chairmen most of the schemes, and it's been fantastic to see the difference how support has made across the whole of East Northamptonshire. The Enterprise Centre, we have supported businesses in many ways over the years, but last year we spent £8 million with £1.6 million support from SEMLEP match funding on building the Enterprise Centre in Raunds. This has office space and workspace for startups and small and medium businesses, as well as on-site business support. The attention of this site is to churn, and what that means is as businesses grow, they can move on and hopefully make way for others. Hopefully North Northamptonshire Council will continue this vein, as it's not just to generate money and income for the council, it is actually to grow businesses. I would like to thank all those involved, and especially the chair, Councillor Greenwood Smith, who ensured this was delivered and with an underspend, which obviously always pleases the leader of the council and the chief finance officer. The Greenway, in the last 10 years, I've been very supportive to help residents, and I appreciate you've already mentioned it, Chairman, to have the opportunity to walk and cycle more. In 2011, as you mentioned, the first phase of the Greenway was completed, which safe walking and cycling routes from Crown Park to Ferris School in Higham. The aim of this Greenway is to at least link Wellingborough to Peterborough, but hopefully beyond, and is of course being done in phases, as you're aware. You can now travel 16 miles along the Nen Valley corridor. This does connect to other footpaths and bridleways as well, and hopefully the new council will continue to deliver the strategy that we've got in place, as it's very popular and even more important now during these COVID times. I have walked it many times in the past year, not the entirety, I hasten to add. I would like to thank Councillor Peacock, who is the current chair of the board, has been a driving force with this since the beginning, and I hope there's a way in involving Councillor Peacock in the future. We have made town centre improvements. We have spent over £2 million in the last 10 years improving the public realm in some of our town centres, with the town square in Raunds, better paving and lighting improvements, environmental improvements in Rushden, and other improvements elsewhere in the town's cross district, including Irfinborough. Moving on to waste. During my time as leader, we have gone from sacks and separate recycling to wheelie bins and co-mingled recycling, which has been a vast improvement, and that does seem an absolute lifetime ago that we still had the black sack arrangement. We have actually also increased our recycling targets that the government set over this period of time, and I think we are now around about the 50% mark. We have had 2 contracts during my time as leader, but in the current contract, and certainly big help from the chief executive in this, we're actually managing to deliver a contract that will save £3 million over the whole term. Leisure, not forgetting leisure. Not only have we spent over £2 million as a council in the last 10 years refurbishing the Nen Centre in Frapston and the Pemberton Centre in Rushden to make them much more usable, but under my leadership we have also introduced the active and healthy lifestyle element of the contract. This is to help people in our rural areas rather than just the traditional measure of numbers going through the doors of our leisure centres. So this is providing sport for all the taxpayers, sport, leisure and health opportunities for all our taxpayers in the area. I will finalise in relation to the local plan. The local plan regime is always changing, as everybody on this meeting knows, and this has been quite considerable in my time. We have, however, been involved in the revised adoption of the core spatial strategy, supported and improved many neighbourhood plans across the district, and after many deliberations and many years, we are just about to send our local plan part 2 off for inspection, and I have offered to drive it down to Bristol myself, but I don't think the current rules allow that. Among many things that should be supported measures in local housing and other growth where it's broadly supported, and give weighted protection against overdevelopment. I would like to thank all those who have been involved and served on the Joint Planning Committee and Planning Policy Committee over the years, and especially Councillor David Brackenbury, who has been in the chair for over 10 years planning policy. I also do need to mention the Tresham Garden Village, where we have been successful and one of the only few councils in the country to receive ongoing government funding to deliver a new garden community for the north of the district. This is ongoing, but still a very exciting project, and hopefully it will come to fruition, but it does involve private developers, so it does always take a bit of time. We have done this and more, which you will mention later on, I'm sure many of you, with balanced budgets, no borrowing, debt-free, and healthy and reasonable reserves. At a previous meeting, Chair, I have certainly mentioned at previous AGMs, I've mentioned teamwork, and the above could not have been delivered without staff and members working together. I can't thank everybody, but I do need to thank the Chief Executive. David Oliver has always been there to give me support over the years, and the odd opinion, I have to say. The 151 officer as well, Glenn Hammonds, who has kept us financially sound. I wish you both luck in the future for whatever you may be doing. I also, Chair, need to give a massive support that I've had for 3 deputy leaders in my time: Philip Hardcastle, Glenn Harwood and David Jenny. I pass on a special thanks to David, who has stepped forward at an impossible and surprising time with the sudden loss of Glenn. Stepping up to that role is hard at the best of times. I did that myself for 18 months, but David has also had to cover for me while with other leaders. I've spent the last 3 to 4 years working up the blueprint for the new authority, which has taken hundreds of extra hours. So David, thank you very much. I would also like to thank the current and past members of CMT. I've always smiled when I've knocked on the door and said, have you got 5 minutes, knowing full well that it would take a much longer conversation. And finally, Chair, I would like to thank all the staff, chairs of committees and members for re-electing me 10 years in a row and making this an absolute pleasure. That's it, Chairman. That's my last leader's address to this council. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor North. Very fitting as your last response to us, and congratulations as our leader. Right, thank you. We now move on to item 6, which is the committee report. The minutes of the recent meetings of the Policy and Resources Committee, Planning Management Committee and Governance and Audit Committees marked to follow in your packs have now been circulated to all members, so you should all have those copies. So now I'd like to call upon Councillor David Brackenbury to give the final report on the minutes of the Planning Policy Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening. Thank you. Is my... Right. Sorry, my computer's giving a bit of a stick. Yes, well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members, ladies and gentlemen. It is with some sadness that I give the report for the last 2 meetings of the Planning Policy Committee. I'll just to stir things up, I'll do them in reverse order. The meeting on the 8th of February on pages 248 to 249 was a simple meeting in which we agreed a supplementary planning document for residential extensions, and it's fairly uncontroversial. A few points were made, and the document went through for consultation quite nicely. More apposite, perhaps, was our meeting on the 27th of January, in which the Part 2 local plan was submitted for Regulation 19 consultation. That is the final technical consultation to adjudge the soundness, or to invite comments regarding the soundness of the emerging Part 2 plan. That is a consultation which is simply, all the representations are simply noted. They are all bundled together, and then we take up the leader's excellent suggestion of driving it down to Bristol. In fact, Leader, I take issue with you when you said a moment ago that it might not be essential to drive it down there. I believe it would be if there was any difficulty in delivery. So that local plan will now be submitted as East Northamptonshire's plan to the planning inspectorate, who will make further arrangements to have the examination in due course, probably in the summer, perhaps in the early autumn, but that's up to God and the planning inspectorate. In concluding, Madam Chairman, I would like to place on record my thanks and appreciation of the incredible hard work carried out by the officers who have supported the planning policy in the planning policy team and supported everything that we do. Their cheerfulness, their dedication, their good humour and their technical efficiency has been remarked upon in areas right around Northamptonshire and as far afield as Westminster. I'd like also, slightly outside the remit of the Planning Policy Committee, but also the very good joint working that we've always had with the Joint Planning Committee and colleagues in Northamptonshire. I would also like to thank every member of the Planning Policy Committee for all their patient work and patient input and brilliant grasp of the highly complicated technical documentation that we've had. None of our meetings, well, with one exception, none of our meetings have ever failed to generate the motion to continue after 2 hours. Some have continued considerably longer than that. And so I would like to thank members for all their patience and all their input. And lastly, Madam Chairman, I would also like to place on record my grateful thanks for the support, friendship and cheerfulness of the excellent Vice Chairman of the Planning Policy Committee, Councillor Tony Boto. Well done, Tony. And that concludes my report, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury. Just one, if I can have just one amendment on the minutes dated the 8th of February. We seem to have acquired another councillor called Councillor Jill Rupert Mercer. I wonder if we could actually get those minutes changed before after approval. But thank you very much for your report, Councillor Brackenbury, and yes, and well done to everybody in your planning policy team. Thank you very much. Next, I'll move on to Councillor Philip Stern for the committee report on planning management. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me? I suspect
yes.
You can.
Yes.
I never know whether they can hear or not.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for the time to address the last conference. Forever, perhaps. As usual, my address won't be very long. It'll be that we had 3 planning management meetings at which we discussed a fair number of applications. They seem to have been drying up of late. I guess they're being saved for the future. And we handled all those applications comprehensively with a great deal of discussion from all members, perhaps a little too much. But that's the thing I've been trying to encourage for a long time. So I don't think, Chair, I need to waste anyone else's time saying any more about those. Again, like my colleagues, I'd like to thank those of you who have been involved with us, the members of the committee, the officers particularly, and for all of you for being wonderful colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stern, and yes, congratulations to everybody on the Planning Management Committee. Now moving on to the Joint Standards Complaints Committee, and I'll bring in Councillor Jill Mercer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Gives me great pleasure to present these at this historic meeting. The Joint Standards Complaints was held on the 24th of February. It is, as you know, joint with Parish Council members as well. The main items on that were to give us an update by the monitoring officer of the status of standards complaints. I'm pleased to say that all outstanding complaints have been closed. We also heard about the Local Government Association consultation on the new Model Code of Conduct, which was out to consultation last year. We replied to that consultation. That has now been issued and can be found on the LGA website. We then heard about the standards regime going over to the new Northants Council, and our new monitoring officer, Adele Wiley, that taken up the post on the new council. And it was noted that the draft constitution for the new council containing the new standards regime was published in February. The rest of that just matters a report, but I would like to thank all members of that committee and indeed other committees that I've served on, and thank colleagues and staff for a wonderful 18 years that I've been on this council, and I wish them all the success in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer. I'm sure everybody will join you in wishing everybody well, and thank you for your service as well. Thank you. Next, I will call upon Councillor Peter Wathen, the Chairman of Governance and Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We've had two meetings, one on the 10th of this month and one actually earlier this afternoon. So if we start off with the 10th, the first item really was about our accounts. There has been some delay in getting these signed off, largely down to EY, our external auditors, having to look at the going concern of the new unitary council. However, I did get from the auditor after that first meeting written confirmation that they propose to issue an unqualified statement on our accounts and on our value for money, which obviously is the sort of cleanest bill of health we can get. So I'll mention the going concern bit when I deal with the next set of minutes. Then internal audit. All of these are going well. There are a few outstanding items still to be dealt with. Some of those have been delayed due to staff being involved in COVID tasks, so it's taken them away from their main duties. And one or two are really things that it wasn't worth pursuing now, given the short life that the council had left, and work is ongoing with the new unitary to prepare things there that will then stand the unitary in good stead going forward. One audit we did get was on the asset management, which was extremely pleasing because there had been some issues with that when it had been audited before, and it has had now a follow-up audit and received a good rating. I was extremely pleased to get that, both for ourselves and of course for the staff involved. Then next we had the annual governance statement, which is something that the chief executive and the leader sign, and it comes to us just for our comments, observations, and we just had one or two minor amendments and a slight layout variation to put on that. Next we had the housing benefit certificate, and quite bluntly this was absolutely incredible. We had a totally 100% clear outcome on this, not a single error anywhere. So to those staff who've obviously worked extremely hard on that, that's a wonderful way to finish their time with us. We then went to look at the risk monitoring arrangements, and those were duly noted. There were no sort of changes on that. And finally, the minutes of the Governance and Audit Working Party were duly noted. The meeting this afternoon was a single item agenda, and it was to do with the accounts, and the external auditor was present, and they have now, between all the councillors, we've agreed a going concern statement that will go on the accounts of all Northamptonshire Council accounts. So that is good. They've decided that there is no material uncertainty about the unitary going forward, which is extremely pleasing, because I'm not quite sure what would have happened if they thought that there was uncertainty. And finally, we're expecting to sign off the accounts on Monday or possibly Tuesday. With that, that's the report, Madam Chairman, and like everybody, I must say I really would like to thank all those councillors who've served on governance and audit over time, and to my current vice chairman, who keeps me in order very well. He's bigger than I am, so he does a good job there. But I really would like to thank the officers concerned, really for their sort of total professional approach to matters, and for the courtesy with which they do that. It's been, I think, exemplary, and if that sort of approach and attitude goes forward into the new unitary, I think it will do it well. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. You're absolutely right. I'm sure every member here will agree with you on your statement. Thank you very much. Now I will call upon Councillor Richard Lewis, his report on the policy and resources. Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and I refer to the minutes of the P&R meeting held on the 15th of March, which are on pages 269 to 277, which were sent out separately. I suppose when I joined this council 14 years ago, I never expected to be presenting the very, very last minutes of not only P&R, but also the council as it happened. And 10 years I've been in the chair of P&R, so I think I've been riding shotgun to Councillor North for 10 years now, one way and the other. However, coming round to the meeting, Madam Chairman, we did start off on a sad note because, of course, Councillor Roger Glithero unfortunately passed away, and so he didn't manage to get to the right to the end of his term. And also, of course, we had Glenn Harwood and Phil Hardcastle, who were both on P&R during my term. So moving on, item 378, we had the minutes of subcommittees and working parties. Just one subcommittee, which is Finance and Performance Sub, of the 22nd of Feb, and they are appended and they were all resolved items. 379, we then had an urgent item which came up regarding the Greenway, and this is something where basically it comes to myself for approval, and it seemed a very good thing to do. It was raised by Mike Greenway, whereby in order to try to clear some of the work that's needed doing for the link from Rushden to Wellingborough, then there was some funds in the ENC Community Projects Reserve, 30,000, which could be used in order to initiate investigations between Rushden and Wellingborough. And that was approved, and we have 3 resolved to recommend to North Northamptonshire Council, because obviously it can't go to East Northants. 1, to recognise ENC Greenway as a vital asset in encouraging healthy lifestyles, improving mental health and well-being and access to the countryside. Includes the 30,000 unspent funds currently in ENC's Community Projects Reserve in its capital development programme to commission and manage the range of preparatory works on Greenway Phase 4 as set out in the report. It recognises the Greenway Forward Plan by including allocated funding drawn from Section 106 contributions and other funds in its capital development pool and programme for developing further phases. So I think that was well worthwhile doing, and as been mentioned previously, the Greenway has turned into quite a good success. The next page we had 381, Regulation of Investory Powers Act, and we didn't discuss this in too much detail. There was an inspection, as it says, on the 1st of September 2020 regarding our original policy, and recommendations were made whereby they wanted us to revise the policy by the end of March 2021, which is a bit unusual when the council's only got a short period to last. But nonetheless, the policy was revised. There was a series of recommendations which have been included, and so we also approved the social media policy. So the revised RIPA policy was approved, and the social media policy was also approved. So that concluded the main work of the committee. I don't know if there's any questions there. All gone very quiet out there. No.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I can't see anybody.
We're all muted, that's why.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I've actually only got myself and a static picture of Helen and a static picture of Councillor North on my screen in miniature. So I've concluded them with my concluding remarks, and on the evening I did make quite a few comments, and I'll just really repeat them. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to serve. All right. Yes, there's things popping up there. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve as chairman of the committee for 10 years. I would like to thank all committee members, past and present, and all officers for their support. And it has been extraordinary, really, the quality, the number, the diversity of papers that we've had. It has been a pleasure to work on this committee. I'd also like to thank Councillor Glenville Greenwood-Smith, my ever-present vice chairman, and also Councillor Stephen North and the chair David Oliver. And I wish you all success in the future. So thank you very much, madam. That concludes my report.
Yeah.
Madam, we've got a resolve to recommend.
No, we don't have a resolve to recommend, Councillor Gale. This is it's resolved to recommend for the new Northampton Unitary Council. I'm afraid we can't do much here anymore. So thank you anyway, and thank you for your report and everybody on your team as well.
Good try, Richard.
Thank you. Oh, right. So we swiftly move on. Thank everybody on all of the committees, all the members, all the staff, everybody who has been involved over the years. You know, we've done an awfully good job, and I think everybody deserves a praise. Thank you very much. Right, item 7, motions.
Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Item 8, receive any questions pursuant to Rule 10.2.
None again, Chairman.
Oh, thank you very much. And now item number 9, appointments to the committee, and this is an oral update of the Democratic and Electoral Services Manager. Over to you, Ben Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. This is just a short update notifying that a final change has been made to the political balance of East Northamptonshire Council following Councillor Peter Thomas becoming an unaligned independent. And I understand that the leader would just like to make a couple of final appointments in respect of committees that will be carrying on during the transition period.
Thank you, Ben. I'm handing over to our leader, Steve Wall, please.
Thank you, Chair. I might as well make some committee changes on our last meeting. Why not? I've been doing it for a long time, so might as well do it on our last meeting, which may surprise some of you, but we've actually carried some vacancies on Planning Management Committee for some time, as much as many of you volunteered to go on that committee. And as you're aware, Chair, and as many of you may be aware, that there is the possibility, and don't all run away at once, please stay to the end of the meeting, but there is the possibility that Northamptonshire may call planning management meetings for non-confidential items during PERDAS, just to keep the flow of planning applications. So in my view, it's certainly best to keep us to the highest complement possible, and we had some vacancies anyway, Chair. So from my point of view, certainly like to fill the Conservative vacancies, and as I'm sure you're aware, Chair, I'd like to propose yourself, well, I move that, or notifying the committee, whichever way it is, Ben, that Councillor Helen Howe will serve on Planning Management Committee in April, and Annabelle Capel-Brooke will also serve on the Planning Management Committee in April if called, to fill the complement our numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Chairman, yes, it's the general assent of council for those two proposals is required.
Thank you, Ben. So we've had a proposal from Councillor Steve North. I'll call for a seconder, please.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Councillor Watson. So going for a vote now. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any against?
You're joking.
Any abstentions? No, that's carried then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So moving swiftly on to item number 10, celebrating 47 years of the East Northamptonshire Council. And I hand over to you, Ben, to lead on this item.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have the great pleasure in presenting this very final report to Council, which considers the contribution that East Northampton Council has made to its people, communities, local economy and prosperity throughout its 47 years. I do not propose to go through the contents of this report itself, noting that in most part it is extracted from a brief history of East Northampton Council, which was kindly researched and compiled over a number of months, delving into our strong room by our former Executive Director, Sian Matthews, copies of which you have received as a memento. So rather than go through the detail of the report, instead what I would like to do is share a video with you, which looks back on some of these memories, which I hope you will enjoy as a tribute to this council. I would just say that the audio slightly dips out with our first contributor, but so if you just make a note of that, but it then comes back through. So I'm going to, if you just bear with me whilst I share my video to a YouTube link.
Thank you, Ben. And just for members' information, we will send out this video after the meeting as well. Thank you.
Gold, bro.
I was pleased to be able to serve the people of Rushden as part of the ENDC, composed of over 52 towns and villages from 6 former authorities. As Chairman of Environmental Services, I had to propose the implementation of the Dog Warden Service. I was Chairman in 1985 and 2013, and in that position, the highlight of my years was greeting the Queen, Elizabeth, on the tour of the Duchy Estate in Northamptonshire. I was pleased to be admitted as an alderman in 2016. I wish the new authority good luck in administering an even larger and more complex authority.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this historic evening. I have very warm memories of my time at ENC, despite arriving for my interview in deep snow. In fact, it was the warm welcome by everybody that made me decide this was the place I wanted to work if I had the chance. I think that warm welcome comes from the feel of being a family business. Yes, we had real families there, but also we all pulled together, and really when there were emergencies like the floods or the Oundle gas outage, you know, everybody went over and beyond in order to make sure that our residents were well served. And that feeling of over and beyond also relates to snow. When I used to arrive early in the morning, and James Cason used to be out there clearing all the snow from the drive, ready for us to get to work. My other memory is actually of sunshine, sat out on the front lawn by James Cason's memorial garden after he died, enjoying a 4th of July picnic, because food was also an important part of the ENC appeal. I hope you have a lovely evening. Best wishes for the future. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, members. As the chairman said, we will be sharing that video with you all. I would just like to thank Gemma Cattell in communications, who really helped us in putting together the video and making it shine. So thank you, Gemma. I'd just also like to share my thanks of all of you councillors. The 3 years I've been with you has really just flown by, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with each and every one of you. So I will pass you back to the chairman, so she can commence the debate and you can share your own memories of being at the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Yes, what a great job they did. I think you'll all agree, members, for the comms team to do that. And Ben, thank you for your kind words. So now, members, now it's our turn. So I really like for you to be able to share your memories and experiences of your time here at East Northants Council. And I'll first like to go to Councillor David Brackenbury, as he is the Vice Chairman, to hear his thoughts. Please put your comments in the chat and I'll come to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
I can't see the chat, Chairman, before you go too far down the road. Where's the chat?
Councillor Farrer, I'll put you on the list.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you. Sorry, over to you, Councillor Brackenbury. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. And it's always nice to hear from Councillor Farrar, because in some ways he is one of the more endearing features of East Northants Council, and you are, sir, a pleasure to have worked with, and it shows the friendship that we can have across parties. And
I'm filling up now.
Yeah, well, we'll get you later. We'll get you later. But Madam Chairman, I haven't been on the council as long as some, but I've been on probably longer than others. I was first elected in 2007, I think it was, under the leadership of Councillor Andy Mercer, and there was John Richardson, and there was Roger Clitheroe, who was the deputy leader, and many friends, many of our friends who are here today. Joining a district council when you have not been a councillor before is quite a learning curve, as I think everybody on this call will attest. And so we suddenly had this enormous piles of papers. we had various procedures that you had to get used to. You had to also get to grips with the officers' predilection for local government jargon. So, you know, one needed a small dictionary, but we were getting there until my first P&R meeting. And I can't quite remember what the item under debate was, but I actually didn't quite agree with the recommendation, and I thought, well, this isn't right. We should do this differently. But unfortunately, the chairman had said, right, all the you know, a proposer as seconder, and I didn't know at that time that what you needed to do was put an amendment up. I didn't realise the procedure, and by the time that happened, the good councillor Philip Stern, who is a fairly efficient operator, as many colleagues will know when he's in the chair, had got through the motion and out the other side. So my brilliant idea, which I'm sure would have transformed everything that we do, regrettably died there and then. Anyway, Chairman, I don't want to speak for too long. I've already had one crack of the whip, so I will be very brief. Thank you, Councillor Farrer. I will be fairly brief. It's been a tremendous pleasure and privilege to sit on this council, both in my role as on the Planning Policy Committee, but also in other committees and in general. It is a family atmosphere. There has always been a feeling of teamwork between the officers and between the members. And, you know, I know there are sometimes troubles and there are sometimes difficulties, but I've always had the feeling that there isn't anything that we could not sort out. Certainly in everything that I've done, I've been very, very well supported by officers, and I've been very well supported by colleagues on the various committees I've worked with. It's been just a great pleasure to sit on East Northants Council and serve among you. And my last remark, really, Madam Chairman, is that this terrible pandemic over the last year has meant that we have not normally seen each other physically for a whole year. We've been doing all this by video conference. Officers, members, we're doing whatever we do. It's all been done by video conference, and it is a tribute, and it's to East Northants Council's teamwork, and it reflects great credit on members and officers that we've still managed to keep that teamwork and that family feel on remote working throughout. It's almost as though I'm in the room with you all, and so it's a great joy and pleasure to have been on East Northants Council. I wish everybody, whether they're coming to the new unitary authority or whether their paths lead in different directions, all the very best in the future, and I hope to see physically and in person, and perhaps leader with a glass in a hand one of these days, before too long. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury. Yes, and I would like to extend my thanks to you as the Deputy Chairman, as also for your support this last year. It's a shame we haven't had to do anything, but I'm sure our paths will meet at some point in the future as well. So I next move on to Councillor Barbara Jenny would like to talk to us now.
Thank you, Chairman. Unfortunately, the Licensing Committee has not met, so there are no minutes to bring forward, but I could not miss this opportunity just to comment on the work of the Licensing Committee. I've actually been a member of East Northants Council since 2007. It's been a privilege for me to chair the Licensing Committee and to work closely with those involved to see the work that has been achieved under the licensing banner. We all lament the passing of an excellent council, but we can look back with pride on what has been achieved. members and officers have worked together to produce robust policies. These have been commended by leading legal experts in the licensing field who've attended our training sessions. This has not happened overnight, but they have been developed over the years. Officers have demonstrated their capacity to work hard, whether it's providing support to the licensed trade throughout this terrible pandemic. A good many extra hours have been put in to ensure everyone is aware of the fast changing legislation. Whether it's meeting the requirement under new animal licensing legislation to achieve additional professional training. Emma Matthews, in fact, was the first person in this country to gain that qualification, something they were given a year in which to achieve. She did it in 6 months. We've enjoyed really good relationships with the police licensing unit, and I would like to thank PC Dave Bryan for taking the time to attend many of our meetings. He's done this and we have really appreciated his input in our committee meetings, and also the support he's given when the licensing enforcement team has been out and about. ENC was the first council in Northamptonshire to sign up to the National Taxi Database. Officers have not shied away from doing the huge amount of work that was required to make this happen. We had the extra advantage of any licenses that were either revoked or refused, we could check on before we made our own decisions. When a review was called by the police on an immigration issue, officers from the Immigration Service were reluctant to attend our panel hearing as they regarded their evidence as de facto. It took no small amount of persuasion to convince them that their evidence was necessary. The result was that officers could see that licensing panels could take much swifter action than could be achieved through their own normal immigration channels. This led to a member of the Immigration Service Interventions and Sanctions team attending a subsequent review to better understand the importance of immigration officers giving direct evidence at hearings and how best this practice could be used elsewhere. We've also run successful initiative using a drugs dog, visiting local public houses. This was well received. The funding for this particular initiative was funded by local parish council, and we're very grateful for their support on that. I'd like to give my heartfelt gratitude to members and officers for their commitment to the licensing regime. It's been an interesting time, particularly with the panels that have come forward, some more challenging than others. And I'd like to include that the officers in democratic services who have supported us through all the panel hearings. A particular thanks goes to Councillor Greenwood Smith as Vice Chairman. I've been very grateful for his sound advice and support. It's made my role as Chairman easier knowing that I had his support behind me. I sincerely hope that the close working relationship between officers and members that we've all enjoyed here and the good practices at this council will carry over to the new unitary authority. And I send you all my best wishes for the future, whether your intention is to continue in local government or whether you move on to other things. I send you my best wishes and thank you all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jenny. A very fitting tribute to everybody in the licensing team, and I also must say that I thoroughly enjoyed it when I was on the licensing committee with you as chairman and previously with Councillor Greenwood Smith. So yes, a fantastic achievement by that licensing team. So thank you. Councillor John Farrer, you're next.
Welcome. As Henry VIII said to each of his wives, I won't keep you long. I came on the council in 74, but I worked for you then, or them then at the time, 74. And the only name we used to recognise literally was Councillor Goldsborough, who of course was the leader. And many a time we would get a phone call from the boss down to my office, which incidentally was the mortuary, that Goals was on his way. Is there anything I should know? So we used to look through the record, get it all straight up for when Alan arrived. And so that was my early recollections. And in them days, when you were interviewed for a job, it was a full house. Everybody were there. And so it was quite daunting sometimes. But my first occasion of being on the council was 1999, and Councillor Richardson was the leader. And during the time that I was on the council at that time, I had the greatest respect for Councillor Richardson, because he would involve me, as with other members, in lots of things that you wouldn't have expected to be on. I mean, I worked for Kettering Borough Council, and I knew the political divisions there were quite strong. But here, you seem to be part of the team. And so those years were quite good. Just a little bit of disappointment that I feel I must mention, but I don't want to debate on it. I don't want any trouble. We don't want this last meeting to be bitter in any way. But just two disappointments in the fact we've got a report of the East Northants Council for 47 years. I would have thought, for accuracy and integrity and any other word you'd like to use it, I would have thought the Labour years would have warranted above 2 lines. And secondly, of course, mentioning the Royston Lakes, Councillor Andy Salford was also instrumental in dealing with that. But I mentioned that as I feel that I must say that. But in respect of the years that I've been now, everybody, you know, I mean, I'm a red blip in a blue sea, but I feel and have felt that I was not accepted, that's not a nice sort of word, but that I was part of the team. And I would also like to thank all the councillors, the officers, etc., which I haven't had a lot to do with officers because I never got to be a chairman anyway. But that I'd just like to thank you for that comradeship and that sense of belonging to it, although not part of the administration. So I also wish you all the well in the future, whether we meet across Northamptonshire tables or whether we move into oblivion is anybody's guess. But thank you, and it's good night from him.
Thank you, Councillor Farrer, and I'm sure you've been a very welcome red blip in the blue sea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd now move on to Councillor Helen Harrison.
Thank you so much. Having been born and bred in the area that I represent, Fineshade Ward, I feel like I know it like the back of my hand. Snuggled up against the border with Rutland and with Lincolnshire in the most northern part of our district. You feel like you know it so very, very well. I was born here, educated here, worked here, and it's a place that I obviously love. However, when I, as a bit of a newbie, by the way, only elected in 2015, I had quite a surprise when I did the training, when we first became councillors, and we were packed onto a bus and driven around the district, and that the district, most of it I didn't know at all, because of course being up in the north of the district, we tended to sort of head towards Stamford and Peterborough for things, or into Corby. And so actually I discovered that the district was rather unknown to me. And it's been such a great pleasure to get to know the whole of the district, and all the councillors that represent the different parts of it. And I think that's one of the greatest pleasures for me, has been getting to know all of you and to have made some great friendships along the way, and to really discover the breadth and depth of our wonderful district. And I hope, like all the rest of you, that we'll all keep in touch, and many of us will go on to serve in the new council, and take that knowledge and love of our area with us. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Yes, and yes, it's quite moving, isn't it, sitting here listening to all of these wonderful words. So yeah, thank you. Move on to Councillor Sarah Peacock now.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'll have my 10 penneth. It's over 20 years since I first became a councillor. The leader was then John Richardson with his sidekick Roger Clitheroe, a dynamic duo as they were then, and I was always known as Young Sarah. Something that I think has way past its sell-by date now, but the Christmas card that you sent out, Helen, I was quite pleased, because I'm sure that was probably one of the first pictures I ever had taken. That said, it's been a privilege to work with various chief executives, officers and members over the years, and it's very sad that we have to say goodbye to East Northampton Council. I was involved in the housing transfer with Councillor Farrer, which was just going to be a shadow board, and 13 years later we were still on there. But it was one of the most well accepted, and I'm sure the houses across the district are some of the best in the country. Looking at some of the reports on tonight's TVs, it made me shiver. I think I've sat on most committees and even had the poison chalice of planning, but I did enjoy that, actually, funnily enough. That was one that I did enjoy, and I relinquished that when I became your position that you hold now as chairman in 2009-10, which again takes you to all parts of the district and surrounding areas, and it was a great privilege to represent this council. I was also fortunate to be involved in the Women's Cycle Tour, which we had twice in the district as well, which was something to be proud of, and worked alongside Mike Deacon again. So I thank Mike and all the officers on that one. But I must say the one, and I think Steve knows what I'm going to say next, my greatest pleasure has been working on the Greenway. And I thank you for your comments. Yes, over 10 years when Councillor Gell and myself stood at Christmas fairs, getting votes from TV to launch the Sustrans support and to get the link between Rushden and Hyam done. And since then it has grown like Topsy. That wouldn't have been done though without the support of councillors, officers, and I'd like to mention Karen Williams, Lucy Hawes and Mike Greenway and numerous other parties, but those three particularly as officers have given us full support, and I think we eat, sleep and breathe it. Which is a good thing, but we take it very passionate. I'm sure we've got a lot more to be delivered with the new unitary coming forward. I'd just like to wish everyone good luck. It seems that quite a few of us are all moving in different directions, but I'm sure that our paths will cross once again, and hopefully we'll be able to celebrate East Northants in the not too distant future and raise a glass or two in person. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Hooray!
Peacock, absolutely, and thank you also for your contribution on the Greenway. I know it's been said before, but you do an amazing job on that, and also as past chairman as well, so thank you. Right, next I'll move on to Councillor Dudley Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. When I came to live in East Northamptonshire just over 20 years ago, I didn't realise what a hidden gem it was, really. When you can go in the Cotswolds and there's all these thatched houses and everybody makes a big fuss. We got all that, Unfortunately, not too many people coming to actually be too indiscreet about the way they come to see them. Although my first big project I was involved with Stanwick Lakes with John Richardson, and I must admit that's been a joy all my life, really, going to Stanwick Lakes. I still wander around there on a regular basis. So, and being involved with the management committee right from its inception. So I've really enjoyed being involved with that. When we have been a council that have had good projects, obviously Stanwick Lakes, Rushton Lakes, the Enterprise Centre, the Greenway, and lots of others as well. But those ones particularly come to mind, ones I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed being chair twice. I think there's only two of us have been chair twice. I managed to be chair twice, and some of the things we did to represent the authority then were fantastic. I was fortunate to have a brilliant dinner at Dean Park with everybody who could think of going to it, and at Stanwick Lakes, when I particularly wanted to showcase Stanwick Lakes because I feel this is one of our great gems in this area. I also would like to say that I feel that being on the planning committee is an opportunity to really help the people, because it's only actually a committee you get to make a decision. And nobody changes it unless the inspectors do, which they do from time to time. But being on the planning committee is really at the front of doing what the residents want, because after all we are elected to serve the residents, and there's nowhere better to serve the residents, I think, than to give air to what they feel. Genuinely, sometimes we don't win, sometimes we win, but sometimes we really can make sure that we preserve the identity of East Northamptonshire, because the danger is that whilst it's wonderful to have all the new houses and the opportunities for employment and so on, we don't want to lose the identity of East Northamptonshire as it is, which is essentially a rural area. I've been privileged and delighted to serve in East Northamptonshire and serve the people of East Northamptonshire. I thank you for your company. Wish you all the best wishes for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Yes, and yes, Chairman twice. Thank you. And obviously the work that you have done on the Stanwick Lakes project. So thank you very much for that. So next I have Councillor Dorothy Maxwell would like to speak.
Oh God.
Are you muted?
Hello, Chair. I would just like to say, as a new councillor only 6 years ago, I suppose it was a learning curve, never having done this ever before. But I'd have to say that the planning committee and all those who sit on the planning committee have been, well, along with Phil and Jill, have been very interesting, and supporting the residents has been something that I've clearly enjoyed. I'd also like to say thank you to the officers for their support in what I would describe some difficult times. I would like to say that having developers threatening you outside ENC is something that I will not miss. However, I hope that everybody is successful in whatever they want to do in the future, but it's been a great 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Yes, you have managed to get yourself into a couple of scrapes, I know, but you've done us proud. Thank you very much. Next, Councillor Andy Mercer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I came onto this council in 2003, and like some of the other councillors, I was asked to go on a bus to learn about the council and tour around it. Didn't work out exactly as planned. After about 20 minutes, I was so sick they had to let me off the bus in the middle of nowhere, and the bus went off and left me there, and eventually they sent a car to recover me. Took me 3 days before I was back on my feet. An experience never to be forgotten. Less than 2 years later, though, I became leader of the council, and within 2 weeks I had the shock of my life when the chief executive told me he was resigning. I thought, what have I done? Turns out he applied for a job before I even became leader, and it came through, and it was an offer he couldn't refuse, and so he took it. And so virtually the first thing I did as leader was to organise the recruitment of a new chief executive, David Oliver, and I must have done a good job because he stuck it right through to the end. I think the thing that I'm most proud of, though, at East Northants is not what I did as a leader, although I did stabilise the finances during 2008's finance crash. What I'm most proud of is the work on Rushton Lakes. It was in my ward, so when it came to planning committee, I was the person who got to speak on it first, and I managed to stretch the 3 minutes you're allowed to 20 minutes before the chairman realised I was still speaking. Afterwards, once the decision had been made by this council to support it, I was free to speak in public, whereas before it comes to committee, you can't. I then wrote something like 110 letters, articles, papers on it, culminating in a glossy report which I wrote and then printed and then even laminated myself and sent copies of to every member of the UK cabinet, and actually arranged for someone to put it onto the desk of each of the cabinet ministers without getting intercepted by their spads and being sent into the recycling bin. The result was we got the best retail and leisure centre in Europe, in my opinion, and possibly in the world. And it has put this council on the map in a way that nothing else has. And I'm just hoping that we can fully exploit the opportunity it's given to us, because it's in years to come, we want this district, this new Northants unitary, to be a tourist destination that people will come from miles and miles away. We don't yet have the hotel we've been trying to get, and which Councillor Peacock, amongst others, has fought for years. We've got to get that hotel in our area, or better still, several of them, and then we will have set up an entire new industry of tourism for our successors. This council has done this area proud, and I'm very proud to have been part of it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer, and thank you for your contribution. You are certainly a force to be reckoned with. And now move on to Councillor Jill Mercer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, as I indicated earlier on, I've also been on this council since 2003. It's been a very enjoyable experience. I think one of my favourite times was as chairman, 2014-15. And as has been said, it's such a beautiful area. Actually getting to visit all the places, especially all the little villages and the thatched cottages, and getting to know people and getting to see the hard work that goes on around the area and the amazing voluntary contribution that our residents make. It was really interesting. I also found interesting working on the leisure contract with yourself, Madam Chairman, when we managed to turn around the leisure services and bring in, as Councillor North said earlier on, not just the leisure centres but outreach work as well, which we felt was very important for the modern life, where we need to get young people out and about. But I think, as my other half has just said, my greatest memory is Rushton Lakes, and particularly sitting every single minute of every day in the hearing, passing little notes to the legal representatives and putting them right when they weren't quite sure of the local services, bus services, etc. And winning that hearing was really at the height of our achievement, and then afterwards seeing it come to life, seeing it built, seeing then the cinema come. We'd been asked for many years, we want a cinema. We said no, we don't think you'll ever get a cinema, but we'll try, and we got it in spades. So it's an absolute gem, and I hope it goes on to better things. But I hope, as everyone said, that everyone goes on to do whatever they want, and it's been great to get to know everybody, and I hope we keep in contact. And I'd like to thank all of the members and the staff for all their hard work over the years, and I hope that we might see each other again if we cross paths at the new authority or elsewhere. But I do hope that we have a physical get together at some point, Madam Chairman. to raise a glass and have one of the famed buffets that we always used to have after the civic meeting, which was something to look forward to at these events. So thank you very much for everything.
Area.
Thank you, Councillor Jo Mercer. Yes, and I'd like to thank you for the support that you've given me over the years as well. And yes, the Rushton Lakes project has been fantastic for our district and all the work that everybody put into that as well. So, and thank you for your chairmanship as well. Next, I have Councillor Wendy Brackenbury.
Thank you, Chairman. I've enjoyed sitting on East Northants Council, and I've enjoyed working not only with our officers and fellow members, but with our town and parish councils and partners. When I was first elected onto this council, Councillor Sandy Feather, a fellow Thaxton councillor, was very helpful in showing me the ropes. It was a particularly privilege to be chairman for the year, and as has already been said, as chairman we get the opportunity to visit numerous organisations and travel around the district, and particularly lovely beautiful part of Northamptonshire that we represent, and so that was a particularly special time. It's always a pleasure to be able to help members of our communities and point them in the right direction, and I'm sure Northants Council will continue the good work. So thank you to everyone who supported me during my time on East Northants Council, and best wishes to you all for the future.
Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury. Yes, and thank you for all your support as well, and your chairmanship. And you are absolutely right. We live in a fantastically beautiful area, and you know, sometimes we don't realise how lucky we are. So thank you. I think finally, unless I have somebody else following, but I have Councillor David Jenny.
Chairman, I've got my hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Underwood, I'll put you on the list. Sorry, I can't see you. No visuals at all. I'm running blind here.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'd just like to say that I've really enjoyed the last 3 years as acting as deputy leader for the council. I've been happy to sit in the background and do all the dirty work and make sure that all the things that need to be done have been done. I think probably my greatest achievement is leaving the Nen Centre with a roof that actually works, and probably the last 2 years working for all of you, trying to ensure that the culture of East Northamptonshire goes forward to North Northamptonshire, and I'd just like to thank Wendy and Steve North for all the work that they have been doing as well to get the culture carried forward. There is a saying, isn't there? The king is dead, long live the king. Well, we need to take the spirit of East Northamptonshire into North Northamptonshire, and I look forward to all of you who go forward, whichever political party you may come from, and making sure that we get North Northamptonshire run in exactly the same way as we ran East Northants.
Area. Thank you, Councillor Jenny. Yes, and thank you for your deputy leadership for the past 3 years. I know you've given our leader an awful lot of support and helped all of us councillors all the way through. So my final speaker is Councillor Robin Underwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I first got elected to this council in 1992 at a by-election, and by my count I've done 27 years. And all those years have been thoroughly enjoyed, and I've worked with many people over that time. I had a little advantage when I started because Carolyn Mulbaugh used to cover the council meetings with, she was a journalist on the ET. So I did get a little knowledge of what I was letting myself in for. Like Dudley, I did 2 years as chairman and thoroughly enjoyed it. and I must say I learned a lot about the district when I was chairman. One of my binding memories is at a council meeting in the early days when the chief finance officer used to sit there reading the Financial Times. And if anybody deigned to ask him a question, you just got a blank look and you never went that route again. But I thoroughly enjoyed working with the council. I have worked with many officers and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the officers, those present and those in the past. And I would like to wish everybody well in the future, whatever the future may hold.
Yes.
And I've handed up my spurs. I'm not standing for neither the North Northants or the Royston Town Council. So I doubly thank all those people, both on those councils. And as I said, I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Councillor Underwood. Yes, and as I sit here in this chamber for this last time, I'm looking up at those lovely photos of the past chairman, and I see you right in the middle there. So thank you for 2 years service and on the 27 years that you've been on this council. So, you know, it's without members like you, as younger ones wouldn't know where to turn. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Chairman.
Right. Councillor David Brackenbury, point of order, please. I understand.
Hello.
Yes, I thought, Chairman. I thought, Madam Chairman, I would scare you just to make sure it wasn't too easy. But this is the civic meeting, you know, the AGM, as it were, and I note that it is not in the minutes, but I would like to, not in the agenda, I beg your pardon. But I think that we should have the best thanks of this council extended to you, Madam Chairman, for your service during the civic year 2020-21, which would normally be a matter of routine. It doesn't seem to be here. So might I crave your indulgence to propose that? I haven't got the precise wording from previous years, but I think members will get the gist. And I propose a vote of thanks to the chairman.
Hear, hear.
Hear,
hear. Hear, hear.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bradbury. That's extremely kind of you, and I do appreciate it all. You know, I haven't been here that long as many of you, but I've thoroughly enjoyed my time, and you know, I've learnt so much from each and every one of you. So thank you very much. And we've had your proposal. I'm sure there was a seconder there. I'm sure.
Yeah, seconded.
Thank you. I will take a vote because I think I should. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. We now go on to the penultimate item on the agenda, which is the closing remarks of the Leader of the Council. And over to you for your final report, Councillor North.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Chair. And it is still strange, that being said, isn't it? Our final reports and final comments, even tonight, it is all terribly sad. But but thanks to everybody for all your comments in that previous item. I'd certainly like to also pass on my thanks to the comms team for putting that video together, and it was also great to see our former director Sian Matthews, and again, Chair, I think you did thank her for all the work she'd done putting the booklet together that we've received lately. And I didn't get a chance earlier, but many thanks to Sian for all the support you gave me over the years, if you're watching this meeting, which I'm sure you may be. That's about it, Chairman, from my point of view. I don't think I'll ever forgive the person who said, have I got a couple of hours spare in 1997 and would I like to stand for a council, especially on some of the 14-hour days I used to do on Mondays. But it has still been an absolute pleasure and being on the council. And like everybody, it was a learning curve right at the start. But and also has been said tonight many times, what a fantastic hidden gem And as Dudley has said, perhaps it should stay hidden from not become the Cotswolds, but we have got a fantastic part of the country we live in here. Chairman, I understand it's has been a very difficult year for yourself, and of course partly you're doing this year because you stayed on as transformation chairman, and thank you for that chairmanship. And obviously we were the first council in the county to do a transformation committee, and also my thanks to you for obviously all that you've done in relation to raising what you have managed to do with your charities, considering you haven't been able to do the usual fundraising. And I'm sure you did comment to me a couple of times about giving you support for first responders, if I remember, with all those texts. And again, apologies for not getting back to you promptly as sometimes I could have done. But also, of course, we're not having an AGM in the future. And I do understand, because someone did tell me that even though this isn't the AGM, there is a past chairman's medal in the chamber that you are to be presented with. And I think Councillor Brackenbury almost gazumped me, but I think there is a presentation, or that is being presented to you. And I hope I've got that right. Otherwise, that's not much of a surprise for you. And on that note, Chair, that's me done. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councillor North. And yes, I have just been presented by Louise with my past chairman's medal. So much appreciated from all of you. And thank you very much for all your assistance, as I've said earlier, in raising those funds for my charity. So we come to the final item on the agenda, which is my closing remarks. So I might need a tissue.
Go on, get with it.
All right, thank you, John, I will. I have contemplated for some time about what can be said that would be fitting and appropriate for the final words of the final meeting of this council. And I will do my very best to mark this occasion appropriately. In the 47 years that this council has existed, we have had many councillors come and go, and our thanks needs to be given for their service. We have lost 11 councillors while still serving in office, and I think it's only right to remember them this evening. They are Councillor E. Hackney in 1990, Councillor Mrs. M. Roberts in 1995, Councillor A. Mantle in 1996, Councillor E. Sampson in 1997, Councillor M. Peacock in 1999, Councillor D. Childs in 2006,
well, David.
Councillor B. Saunston in 2007, and as previously mentioned, and most recently, Councillor P. Hardcastle in 2012, Councillor Glenn Harwood MBE in 2017, who was our deputy leader, Councillor Ron Pinnock in 2020, husband to Councillor Janet Pinnock and former chairman in 2004/5. Councillor Roger Glitheroe, early this year, 2021, who had been here from the very beginning of East Northants, but sadly didn't quite make it to the final day. One thing I noticed when I was elected to this council is that we are a family here, and it is extremely sad when one of our own passes away. We will all have different memories of many former councillors, but each and every one played a part over the years in shaping this council, and they deserve our thanks. Our thanks also goes to all the staff, officers, and anyone who ever was associated with East Northants Council for their dedication and commitment to the residents of this amazing district. I became a member of East Northants Council in May 2015 after joining Town Council from 2012. I sit the Stanwick ward, which represents both Stanwick and Hargrave. I remember attending my first meeting. It was planning management. At the very first meeting, I'd had to present a major application in Stanwick. Talk about rabbits in the headlights, but I did it with a lot of nerves and a lot of support from other members, especially those who have been on the council for a lot longer. I'm delighted to say that the application was turned down, although I wasn't too sure how much of an impact my contribution had. But the other members of the planning committee certainly knew what they were doing. I'm so pleased to say that I have learnt so very much from all of you, officers and members alike. Your kindness, encouragement and understanding has been invaluable. I have found thought that once you get involved in local government, for whatever reason, it is completely engrossing. The knowledge that you are providing a service and are there to assist the residents and improve their way of life sends a real sense of achievement through your body. It is addictive, it is fulfilling and emotionally rewarding, and sometimes frustrating, but I wouldn't change it at all. It has been an honour and a privilege to be a councillor and chairman of ENC. We have achieved many great things for the residents, businesses and communities of this district, and we should all be so proud to have been part of it. We don't know yet what the future holds for us all, but I certainly hope that those of us who wish to continue serving our community are able to do so in the new authority. It would be a shame to lose such great talent. Those of us who have decided to move on to pastures new, I wish you all the very best for the future. A new day is soon dawning and we will become part of a larger picture that is North Northamptonshire. I do hope that localism remains high on the agenda and our residents have the same exceptional representation and services moving forward. We have had a vision to achieve many amazing projects throughout this council's lifetime, and that is down to everyone involved. I hope you will join me in thanking David Oliver for his service and wish him all the very best in his retirement. I would also like to recognise the great contribution from our leader, Councillor Steve North, Deputy Leader, Councillor David Jenny, and the work of every elected member of this council, and for everything you have achieved, including the support you have given to me as the last chairman of this council. I wish you the very, very best for the future. Thank you all, and I will do the last gavel. I draw this meeting to a close. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Well done, Madam Chair.
Bye.
And hopefully we'll see you all on the other side.
Good.